Hello, it's Chris again, and I'm about to do a nice simple project with you today. Two little details that go on the little chef. If you're enjoying these videos, please subscribe and please click like below the little video here. And yeah, let's crack on. Now, first of all, we're going to do the vent, which goes on the roof. And this I've already mounted to a piece of card, which you'll have received in your pack. The little vent is going to go on top of the roof, so here. Okay. And it's quite easy to put together. The other thing I thought we could do today, which has caused a little bit of confusion in the past, I know I've had some messages about this, is the little grill extractor that goes above the grilling area inside the little chef. It's a nice little detail to have. It's not essential, but when you look through the window, it's quite sweet if you can see the little grill. Okay, well, let's start with the air vent. Okay, so what I've done already is I've scored these lines, so you can see I've got a light blue dotted line that tells you to score things. Should we get that the right way up? There you go, a little blue dotted line. There's some areas to cut out here, these little triangles. And I've also asked you to score in between some blue lines up here. So just to show you, you can score along there to there, score along there to there, and that's also the same with this. Score from there to there, but don't go beyond. We don't want that little bit scoring there. Score there, there, and there. So let's just cut these bits out, and away we go. I've just put a new blade on my scalpel this morning, so it's very satisfying cutting through this. And then what we're going to do is bend these little sections up along the scored line. And it's quite delicate, this, so you want to make sure you can hold this in place so it doesn't get bent. So one possibility here is to get a metal ruler, hold the card over the edge, and then bend it against the ruler. That sometimes helps, I find. The paper may just come away slightly from the card that you've glued it to. You could even bend those little flaps before you cut out the square section. Give those a good fold. Okay, so that's that little section. As always, I'm going to just use a marker to darken the sides of these. And then we've got this little section, which is also going to fold round those little bits that I've done. So again, using a ruler, you can fold those to keep them nice and square. And this is going to be glued here. Okay, let's get a little spot of glue on that. Now these always want to come apart, so maybe that you've got something you can just clamp it with. Okay, that'll create a good little bond, and I can leave those. Now this little section here, the cap of the vent, I've scored along here and here as well, and you're just going to slightly play those and fold them a little bit. Nothing drastic. So I should have scored my lines here, which I've done. And then we're going to nick out these little corners. And having scored these lines, I'm just going to fold slightly there to give a little bit of a kind of triangle shape, and just press it with my fingers. And then these are going to flap down. So again, before you glue this into place, get your Sharpie. You could use a grey felt tip pen here. I quite like using a black because it gives that kind of slightly charred, greasy look. All those early starters being cooked inside the little chef. And the greasy smoke coming out. You can see one side of this is slightly weathered for you, and that's the bit that will face down on the roof, where the sort of smoky air is coming up. So I'm now going to fold these, and again, worth using a ruler here just to make sure they're nice and crisp, the folds. I've pre-scored them, so they should fold well. Useful if I use the straight end of the ruler. Okay. A tiny little spot of glue in the corners here, underneath. Or I'm going to try something new today. I'm going to use a glue gun, because the glue gun glue stays wet for a little bit, and I'm going to pop it into the corners of this and then hold the little bits together, the little corners together, and we'll see how that works. I think that's going to be quite a good way of doing it, and I'll make it a little bit malleable for a while. Right, my little box section is ready to go, and is this section. So a little spot of glue on each of the flaps. And I'm going to use my tweezers again, just to press those bits in. These are so handy. Work your way around a few times until you've got a good bond. And you can also just press in like this. So what I'm doing is I'm just putting the handle of the scalpel or the tweezers through and then pressing down from the edge to get a decent bond. And now we're going to try the glue gun method. So the idea here is that I've got my glue gun heated up, and I'm just going to place a little bit of glue around the edges and then hold it in place and hope that it bonds it nicely so we don't get these flapping open. Okay, so there's my glue in place. I'm going to hold the corners. Might just spread that around a bit while it's still wet. Yeah, that's work. That's had the desired effect. That's what I wanted it to do. And that is slightly malleable still, so I can sort of shift it around a little bit. We've got it, and that will go onto the roof detail eventually, glued onto here with some nice pre-weathered grease on the roof. All right, so that'll be glued on there when we finish the restaurant off. Okay, well now let's tackle our little friend, the greasy grill extractor, which you would find in all good little chefs. And this is where it's going to end up. So it's a little 3D thing. It'll be behind the counter, and that's where the chef will be cooking up your early starter. So it's going to be glued onto this section. Now, when you get this on your pack, it does say you can mount it on cardboard. But to be honest with you, I work with it just on paper, because I think it doesn't need to be particularly rigid. It's easy to put together if it's just on paper. And once it's glued in place, you'll never see it again, really. So just to talk you through what to do here, make sure you score these lines. I've marked them with dotted lines. So I'm using the back of my knife here. Score the tabs so they're easy to fold once you've cut it out. And then let's cut it out. Teeny bit fiddly to put this together, but once you know what you're doing, it's pretty easy. So I'll carry on cutting this out, and we'll be back together again in a minute. There we go, it's cut out and ready to go. So crucial bit here is to make sure you fold these nice, really give them a good fold. Makes it easier to put together when we put the glue on. Right, I've got all my fold lines well and truly folded to make sure they're ready to go. And now I'm going to grab a bit of glue and work my way round. Now this is the bit that's a bit fiddly. Spot of glue on all the tabs. And let's assemble it. First of all, these little side bits. You could glue this in stages, but I'm just being a bit hasty here. Then fold this top over and tuck it in here. And if you've given these folds, if you've worked them hard enough, it should just come together nicely. Now, because I was being a bit hasty, I've got a bit of glue there, but to be honest with you, it could second as little chef grease. Okay, so there it is. I mean, it's as simple as that. Just pinch the edges slightly, and once it's put together, it's quite a rigid little box.